Welcome back to another episode. This is Layla Rose, and today we are discussing prosperity and the divine feminine. So, we're going through a collective awakening, obviously, and it is actually the rise of the divine feminine. And we can see that through a lot of different symbolism. And for example, within corporate America, right? We're seeing more and more women in positions of power. We're seeing women understanding their rights, understanding that they can start their own business. So there's a lot more freedom when it comes to the divine feminine. And by the way, this information is not new age. It's not new. The church, for example, has always known this for a fact because, I was not raised in a religious household, but I know that a lot of people who have religious trauma have told me that you're not allowed to worship Mary, which is, I'm not even surprised because obviously anything that makes you empowered and a critical thinker is demonized by the church. The feminine is extremely demonized by the church. The divine feminine actually was removed. She was removed from the Holy Trinity, which is insane because how can you create life without the divine feminine? She is the portal. You need her. So what it does, the thing is, when you remove the divine feminine from positions of power and you cut her voice and you remove her rights, then you create the wounded feminine. So what's happening right now is actually a retaliation of the wounded feminine, which is why a lot of women are learning how to look like women, right? Look like Venusians, but act like men or think like men in a more practical and rational way, and see marriage, for example, as a business, as it was intended to by society, by the way. But women are catching up to the fact that they're not playing the same rules as men, A lot of men get married not because of love, but because it's convenient for them at that moment. And then as soon as they find a better replacement, they leave their wife. With the kids and everything, they just leave everything because they're not emotionally attached. And so a lot of women are catching up to this. And the wounded masculine doesn't like that because he's losing control. So we're also seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of men getting angry instead of leveling up, which is so ironic because a lot of men have told women that they were too emotional to be in positions of power. But there's nothing that screams more lack of control, of emotional intelligence, than a man who gets angry and uses physical violence for anything. All right. So when it comes to prosperity, so this is something that you're probably going to notice if you go to a church, for example. There's a lot of statues and paintings of Mother Mary. She represents the divine feminine. So when people light candles or they give an offering to her, it's worshiping. You're worshiping the divine feminine. And a lot of extremely wealthy families know that, which is why they worship the dark goddess or the divine feminine in some way, shape, or form. This is something that's usually hidden. A lot of times in the Masonic temples, this is what's happening as well. And they can't really defend themselves when people accuse them of weird stuff because they made a pledge of not talking about the rituals or something, so they cannot defend themselves. But a lot of times this is what's happening behind closed doors. And the thing is, you have to be at a certain level of consciousness to understand that the darkness and the dark mother is is the void. She's the unified field. She's where we're coming from, basically. That's what a lot of people call God. Again, because of the patriarchy who wanted to masculinize everything. But once we start to ascend and we start to understand the universal laws and the concept of duality and the law of polarity and everything, you might have realized it already. But when you start worshiping the divine feminine, and this can happen, by the way, in many different ways. It doesn't have to be like a ritual with like candles and everything. But worshiping the feminine could be, if you're a woman, for example, it could be worshiping yourself, taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, buying yourself roses, getting your nails done, working with the color red or pink. When you're doing that, you are worshiping the divine feminine, and this brings prosperity to your life. For a man, for example, they have to be generous with, it could be their mother, if, for some reason it's just not happening, or she's not alive anymore, whatever. He can gift or be generous with his sister, his wife. So when men do that, that's when they become super wealthy. And that's why when you see the wealthiest men in the world, the billionaires, you rarely see them single. They're always married. If they get a divorce, they usually get remarried very quickly, because they understand the energetics of the divine feminine and the prosperity. So there are very different ways to work with this type of energy. You can also call her Mother Earth as well. It doesn't have to be like the divine feminine, like just Mother Earth. Giving back to the earth is something as well. It's a very powerful gratitude ritual as well. So that's what's happening right now within our collective, and there's a lot of built up, anger and wounds, especially when it comes to men, because a lot of men grew up with mother that were very cold emotionally, because they were cold emotionally to themselves. So they thought this is what they had to do in order to survive the patriarchal system. So a lot of men think that they actually grew up with loving mothers, because they don't know any better. They think that's what love is, And the most triggering thing you can do to a man is to confront him about this wound. This is actually when a lot of men grab weapons and they physically attack women, even the ones that they've been with for like 20 plus years. Like, it just activate the deepest, darkest primal wound within a man. So I really do not recommend confronting a man about this wound, but I'm just sharing the knowledge either way, just like to whoever wants to listen to it. But yeah, it's a very triggering wound for men. Because you're triggering the deepest parts of them. A lot of times it's very subconscious as well. So it's something that's very intense. So what happens is that when a man grew up with a mother who was unloving or cold, he always ends up, looking for external validation through women. That's why he might, always have mistresses, spend a lot of money for upscale companions, physical, exchanges. I can't really say the word on YouTube. But yeah, this is what happens. Once again, never confront a man about these wounds, because it's gonna get ugly. It's really triggering to them. A lot of men are not comfortable, expressing their emotions and crying. So it just might come off as anger, because a lot of times that's what happens with sadness. You're either crying or you're angry. So when anger comes out and you're in the way, you don't want to be there. All right. But it's something that we can understand. So that's why, when that's what they're actually craving. They're craving this very abundant, radiant, feminine energy that they didn't get from their mother. So they're looking for it at night, in secret places where they can get the feminine energy. So, for example, a strip club is a very, I know a lot of people are like, what? It's a very high frequency divine feminine temple. And unfortunately, most of them are managed by men. So they actually exploit the feminine energy. It used to be sacred. It used to be very expansive, right? So you expand your soul when you go to these places, but it used to cost a lot more money. Or if it wasn't money back then, it was gold, or like you had to make offerings, jewelry, something that was of high value. Like you could, like now you can just enter these places. First of all, it's free. Big mistake. There should be a cover fee. Not a cover up. There should be a cover fee. And now you can just walk in there for free, and there isn't, you can just like grab a drink. So like for $10, you're telling me I can look at beautiful, women, like, and access the feminine energy. So this is where it doesn't make sense. Hopefully I'm still going to be alive when we're going to see these strip clubs become sacred again. But, for that to happen, there has to be more women in positions of power with money, because that's how you start these types of clubs. For example, you need a lot of money. And unfortunately, the way society has been built so far, it really gives more, I wouldn't say gives more money to men, but it's a very masculine type of system. So that's why a lot of men thrive better, because of their hormonal cycle. It's a 24-hour hormonal cycle, and we have a 28-day. But now with the rise of the divine feminine and AI, by the way, and I know a lot of people have been demonizing AI because, once again, there's a lot of psyops going on, especially in the past 3 to 4 years. And one of them was like, AI is the demon that's going to take over the earth. And once again, it's an attack. It's a spiritual attack towards women, because with AI now, we can automate things. We can build these huge digital empires. And this is what I teach within the Dark Goddess Empire membership. I'm giving all the tools and resources for women to create their own empire, but it's passive. So it's the actual original template of the divine feminine empire. Because have you ever seen a queen work hard and beg people, like, please buy my $10 offer? Like, no, right? She's of high value. Most people are not even going to be able to be in the same room as her within her life. That's what a goddess is, she's exclusive. But now with AI and all this technology, obviously there's a dark side to it. There's a shadow aspect to it. Not dark, shadow aspect. But there's also the positive aspect, which is, a lot of women are building their own businesses, and they don't work harder. They increase their value, because that's what the feminine does. She doesn't work hard. She increases her value. So she sells these high ticket offers. It could be paintings, whatever she wants to create, right? But it has to be priced at the right amount, because when it's a high ticket amount, she doesn't have to work hard, and she still gets to live in luxury in her feminine, and she feels safe and contained, and which is why she's able to create more, because it's coming from a place of overflow. All right, that's it for today's episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.